Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Arunachala Ramanaya. Namaskaram. Today we are celebrating Bhagavan's Aradhana. That is, we are commemorating the day that he left the body. In worldly terms, it can be said it was the day his body died. But death was only for his body, not for him. Bhagavan is Arunachala Shiva himself. And Shiva is called Jaya, the conqueror of death, or KālaKālan, death to death. Refers to the well-known story of Markandeya, who took refuge at the feet of Lord Shiva and was thereby protected from death. KālaKālan means, Kala means time. It also, that's the primary meaning is time. Secondary meaning is death, because time will take us all. In time, death will come. So KālaKālan means time to time or death to death. So Bhagavan is that KālaKālan. He is Mrityunjaya. He's the one who conquered death. We can see this in his life. Before coming to the most important incident, when that fear of death came to the young boy Venkataraman, I'll mention what happened a few years before that. When Bhagavan was 12 years old, his father passed away. And when he was taken, he wasn't there at the time, but he was taken to the home where his father's body was lying. And everyone there was weeping, and he looked, and there his father was lying there on a bench or table or whatever, and everyone was weeping. He wondered to himself why everyone is saying father has gone when father is lying here. So he said this, and then one of his relatives said, "This is just your father's body. Your father has passed away." Then he thought within himself what this means. Then he understood, I know the I in me, but my father's I has left his body. So at that young age, without anyone telling him directly, he understood from his own viveka, his own deep thinking, his discernment, but I is something different from the body. But that was just an understanding. A few years later, when he was 16, one day when he was supposed to be studying, he was sitting alone in a room upstairs, and suddenly an intense fear of death came to him. But how he responded to that fear of death and how we would respond to such a fear of death is very, very different. When the fear of death comes to ordinary people, the mind naturally goes outwards to cling to all the things to which it is most attached, to cling to the body, to the identity, to all that we associate with ourselves. So, for example, it is said that if a person is drowning, or so many like a movie film, they begin to see images of their life, of their childhood, of all the important moments of their life, because the mind is going outwards, clinging to all the things that it is most attached. But Bhagavan's response was different. Bhagavan, when the fear of death came, what Bhagavan feared to lose was not just the body, but his own very being. So he turned his mind inwards to hold on to look deeply into his being, to see whether when the body dies, whether he will die, whether his existence, his being, his swarupa, whether he himself would die. So he looked within, And he looked within so keenly that he ceased to be aware of anything else. He thereby became aware of himself as the pure awareness, the Suddha Chaitanya, that we all actually are. And as soon as he experienced himself as that Suddha Chaitanya, the ego that was aware of itself as I am Venkataraman was destroyed. So he literally he went through death and emerged as the eternal deathless spirit, as Arunacha Shiva himself. In other words, Arunacha Shiva swallowed that individual who, that is, the boy who, that is, that Jiva who was born as Venkataraman was a Atitivara Pakvi, a very, very highly mature soul. That soul took birth again uh, for the express purpose of that body being taken over by Arunacha Shiva himself at the age of 16. So Arunacha Shiva swallowed him, and from then onwards, what was shining through that body was Arunacha himself, Shiva himself, God himself. When we look in the eyes of Bhagavan, we are not looking in the eyes of an individual. We are looking in the eyes of God himself. So he, at that age of 16, he conquered death and he emerged as Lord Shiva himself. Therefore, for Bhagavan, the body was nothing. Um, as he um, as he says in verse oh sorry, not one verse 31 of Uludu Napadu Anubandam, he gives a very nice analogy of a person sleeping in a cart. So what he says in this verse is to the for the Mainyani, the knower of reality, the the to the knower of reality who is asleep within the fleshy body, which is like a cart, the activity, nishta, and sleep are just like to a person sleeping in a cart, that cart moving, standing, or the cart remaining alone. That is, if a person is sleeping in a cart, if they're fast asleep, they're not aware whether the cart is moving or whether it is standing, or what he means by the cart remaining alone, whether the bullocks have been unyoked. So if the person, sleep in the cart is not at all aware of the cart. Just like that, for the jnani, the main jnani, the knower of reality, who is asleep within the fleshy body. Asleep within the fleshy body means totally unaware of the body. And that body is like a cart. So just like the person sleeping in the cart is not aware whether the cart is moving, standing, or remaining unyoked, the jnani is not aware of the activity, nishta, or sleep of the body. Likewise, in another verse that he wrote as originally as part of Guru Vasika Kovai, a verse that is now verse 21 of in Guru Vasika Kovai, it's verse B24. In Upadesha Tanipakal, it's verse 21. What he says in this verse is, just like a person who is and I will paraphrase it slightly, just like a person blinded with the intoxication of toddy, someone who has been drinking toddy is not at all aware whether the fine cloth with which he was adorned is still on his body or has fallen off. The Siddha, who has known self, who has known himself, does not know the body, which is impermanent, when he said the body which is impermanent, he means it's not real. So this impermanent body is not real. So the jnani does not know the body, whether due to prarabdha, it rests or is active, and whether due to that same prarabdha, it has joined or has separated. What he means, whether it has joined or has separated, means whether it lives or has died. So for Bhagavan, there was no body at all. It's only in our view, but because we mistake ourselves to be a body, in our view, he seems to be a body. We mistake him to be a body, but for him, there is no body at all. So in the next verse Upadesha Tanipakal, it's just a brief two-line verse. He expresses very nicely. The meaning of the verse is, he who has known himself will discard the body just like a leaf after food has been eaten. That is, after we've eaten food on a leaf, we're not attached to the leaf. The leaf served a purpose to eat the food. Once we've eaten the food, we discard the leaf, just like that. The purpose of the body is as a means to know ourselves. That is, it's only in this embodied existence, embodied state, that we can turn our attention back to ourselves to know what we actually are. Once we've known what we actually are, the body will be discarded just like a leaf. So Bhagavan, he had discarded the body at the age of 16. So when the time of the death of his body came, 54 years later, all the devotees were weeping and praying to Bhagavan not to leave them. And he said, "Where can I go? Uh, I am always here." When he says, "I am always here," of course, he means in a very special sense, he is ever present in Tiruvannamalai. He's present as Arunachala. He's present in Ramanashram, in his Sanadi. But his presence is in no way limited to time and space. He is eternally present in the heart of each and every one of us. But in one of his verses in Guru in Ramana Sandhi Murai, Murugana says the whole universe is Ramanashram, because there's not a place that can be found where Bhagavan is not present. He is the very being, the very reality of everything. So he is eternally present in the heart of each and every one of us. So this day when when he left his body, or from our point of view, we say he left his body. We can't say it anyway. The day that body died, this is a time for us to think on this deep truth that Bhagavan is untouched by death. He conquered death long before. He is the eternal spirit in the heart of each one of us. So the death of the body didn't affect Bhagavan at all. Some people some people who are devoted to Bhagavan but don't have fully understand Bhagavan, there's a wrong belief that a living guru is necessary. So they go out in search of some person whom they can take as guru. But guru is not, as Bhagavan made very clear, guru is not the body. The real guru is God himself. As he says in Nana, Kadavulum Guruvum Unmail Verala. God and Guru are in truth not different. So it is God alone who is Guru. So Bhagavan, as God himself, is the Guru. And God is not, we don't go looking for an eternal God. This is why in other traditions, in other sampradayas, they have a parampara, a lineage of gurus. But in Bhagavan Sampradaya, there is no lineage of gurus because Bhagavan is the eternal guru, because he is eternally deathless. Sometimes when people used to ask Sadhu Om whether a living guru is necessary, he said, yes, a living guru is absolutely necessary. But if by a living guru you mean a living body, that living guru will one day become a dead guru. What is the use of such a guru? We need an eternally living guru. Bhagavan is that eternally living guru. That is why in Bhagavan Sampradaya there is no parampara, because Bhagavan is the eternal guru. Bhagavan's power is in no way less now than it was when he appeared to us in the form of his body. So he is ever present in the heart of each and every one of us. Um, so, and that's another thing Bhagavan made clear. There's one very nice incident that took place. There was a devotee of Bhagavan called Janaki Mata. She lived in Tanjore and she often used to visit Bhagavan. One time when she was visiting Bhagavan, she saw him returning from Gosala with followed by just one attendant, and no one else was around. She thought to herself, this is a very nice opportunity. So she approached Bhagavan and she fell at his feet. She held his ankles with her hands and put her forehead on his feet. Bhagavan looked down at her with a smile and asked, what are you doing? She said, I am holding the feet of my guru. And Bhagavan said, this body is perishable. These feet are perishable. If you take these physical feet to be the feet of Guru, you will be disappointed. If you take this body to be Guru, you will be disappointed because this is perishable. It will pass away. The real feet of Guru are shiny in your heart as I. Hold on to those feet. Those feet will save you. So Bhagavan was constant. That is the function of the outward form of Guru, is to turn our attention back within to find the real Guru, the Guru Swarupa, the true form of Guru, who is ever shining in our heart as Atma Swarupa, as our own real form, as what we actually are. So Bhagavan is ever present within us as ourself. As he sang, Ariyati Tarajivara Tahavari Jagohail, Arivairami Paramatman Arunachala Ramanan. Arunachala Ramana is the Paramatma who blissfully exists as awareness in the cave of the heart lotus of all different jivas, beginning with Hari, beginning with Lord Vishnu himself, from the highest God to a most insignificant sentient being, most insignificant insect, what is shining in the heart of all living beings. That is Arunachala Ramana, that awareness but it's in the heart of each one of us. That is Arunachala Ramana. So in that verse, he didn't just stop with saying who he really is, because he doesn't ask us just to believe. He asks us to experience for ourselves. So in the last two lines of the verse, he teaches us how we can experience that for ourselves. So he goes on to say, Parival ulum uruha. That is heart melting with love. We need to have so much love in order to turn within and know him as to know ourselves as we actually are, and thereby know him as he actually is. We need so much love. So he said, Parival ulum uruha. Nal paranandidu goheyandu. Reaching the cave where that uh, divine, that sublime, supreme dwells. That means that Arunachala Ramana, that Paramatman, um, um, Parivalulam Uruhat, uh, Nal Paranandidu Hayandu, Arivam Viri Tirava, the eye of awareness opening. That is, we will become aware of ourselves as we actually are. Arivam Viri Tirava, uh, Nijam Arivai. You will know this Nijam, that which is this truth, this reality, that which is Nijam means what is natural, what is innate, what we actually are, our own Swarupa. We'll know our Swarupa. Adu Veliyam, it will reveal itself. So, if to know Bhagavan as he actually is, all we need to do is to turn our attention within with great love and to subside back into the innermost depths of the cave of our heart where he is ever dwelling as ourself. And thereby we will, uh, the eye of awareness will be opened and we will know him as he actually is by knowing ourselves as we actually are. So this is the true function of the outward form of Guru, to turn our attention back within. And so if we want to be like Markandeya, how was Markandeya saved by Lord Shiva? Because when death came, he clung firmly to him. In the story, he clung to Lord Shiva in the form of his linga. We need the linga of that linga is ever shining in our heart as our own being. That is what we need to hold on to. If we hold on to our being at the time of death, death will not touch. Death cannot touch us. Bhagavan will definitely, just like Lord Shiva appeared and kicked Yama, Bhagavan will appear and kick Yama. Yama cannot touch us. Um, this Bhagavan referred to this in his when in 1914, when Bhagavan's mother visited him, she had a very severe fever. At that time, he wrote 4 verses. These verses in the English collected works, these are referred to as verses for the mother's recovery. But Bhagavan wasn't praying for his mother's recovery. If we read the verses carefully, he is praying for her salvation, not for her recovery. It's not, that is, death is going to come to all of us. That is not, well, come to all of us in the sense, death will definitely come to the body. At that time, she recovered from the fever and she lived for another 8 years or so. So Bhagavan wasn't just praying for death to be averted at that time. He was praying for her to be saved from death itself. So in that verse, he begins addressing Arunachala as KālaKālan. Um, uh, so he's addressing KālaKālan means death to death, the conqueror of death. So what he says is, O KālaKālan, may you show your lotus feet to her in such a way that Kalan, meaning Yama, the god of death, does not come to her who bore me, who gave birth to me, this child who has taken refuge at your lotus feet. He beautifully describes himself as Unkala Padam Sanda Balan Enne, me, this child who has taken refuge at your feet. And he describes his mother as Indra, she who has borne me, she who has given birth to me. So he prays to Arunachala to show his lotus feet to his mother in such a way that death can never touch her. So he wasn't just asking for her to be to protect him from death at that moment. But death can never touch her. And so 8 years later, when the time for the death of her body arrived, according to Prarabdha, by the grace of Bhagavan, who is Arunachala himself, she was saved from death. He bestowed jnana upon her. But in the last line of this verse, he says very beautifully, Arayil Kalanumeya. If investigated, who is even Kalan? So Bhagavan had such disdain for death. If we investigate, who is this Kalan? Who is this Yama? How can he touch us? How can death ever touch us? If we investigate and know what we actually are. That is Bhagavan's path. That path of Araichi, investigation. So Bhagavan came, he demonstrated in his own life how we can conquer death, how we can conquer Yama. We can conquer him only by clinging firmly to Bhagavan, who is ever shining in our heart as our own being, as I am. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Arunachala Ramanaya.
Thank you, Michael, for having come here.
Yeah.
Taking a page to come over here,
Yes.
spending your time here. So,
it's always a pleasure to talk about Bhagavan to fellow devotees.
say a few words. Thank you.
Yes.
Namaskaram and friends to you, Michael James.
Namaskaram.
On this occasion of yet again commemorating the Mahanirvana Day. But as I go back to the last 20 minutes of your enlightening words, which have always been so whenever you have spoken to us at our satsang. So perhaps I think this very day needs to be retermed when we say KālaKālan, when Bhagavan defied death.
Yes.
You also put to us so beautifully saying, Bhagavan said, who is this Yama?
Yes.
When that question is being asked and asked again from Bhagavan's point of view, because it is that unknown that an ordinary mortal always fears.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
There's only that a mortal fears because of his ignorance.
Exactly.
So challenged Yama and said, who are you to take my mother away?
Yes.
Was Bhagavan referring to that enlightenment which he wanted to be bestowed on Aradhana's soul, to understand that was simply nothing? Was it so?
Yes, that is, Bhagavan came not only to give that enlightenment to his mother, he came to give it to all of us. But of course, his mother is very, very special. What a great what a great punya soul she must have been to have the great good fortune of bearing Bhagavan in her womb, giving birth to him. That's a great, great blessing. So naturally, she was fully deserving of that grace of Bhagavan, and so she attained it. But Bhagavan didn't come just to save her; he came to save all of us. So, what he prays for his mother, he is indirectly praying for all of us. But we must be willing. All we have to do is to surrender ourselves to him, and to surrender ourselves to him, just like Markandeya surrendered himself to Lord Shiva by clinging firmly to a linga, we have to surrender ourselves to Bhagavan by clinging firmly to him in our heart, where he is ever shining as our own being, as I am. So as Bhagavan said to Janaki Mata, if you rely on these physical feet, these will not, these you'll be disappointed, because these physical feet are going to perish. The real feet of Bhagavan are what is ever shining in our heart as I am. So that is what we must cling to. We must cling to that as firmly as Markandeya cling to the linga, and then death cannot touch us. I forgot to mention that a very important verse in Aksharammalai, in which Bhagavan sings verse 96. Vittidal Kashtamam Vittida Dunaya Vittida Arulpuri Arunachala. That is, bestow your grace. So that is Vittidal Kashtamam. If leaving, it will be kashtam. It'll be difficult. It'll be suffering. If leaving means if I let go of you. Vittida Dunuiwe, Vittida Arulpuri. Bestow your grace so that when I leave this life and leave this body, but I do not leave you, do not let go of you. But how can we at the time of death hold on to him? The only way to hold on to him at the time of death is to hold on to him as much as possible throughout our life. If we spend all our life just thinking about worldly things, thinking about all the inevitable problems that we all face in life, the difficulties, I mean, we all face so many difficulties in so many forms: financial difficulties, difficulties in the family, difficulties at work, difficulties, all sorts of things. So our mind is constantly dwelling on all these worldly things and our desires, wanting this and that. If our mind is dwelling on worldly things throughout our life, we'll be dwelling on them even at the time of death. If we want to be able to hold on to him firmly at the time of death, we need to hold on to him throughout our life. That is that abhyasa, that practice of holding on to him in our heart. That is very, very necessary. So we should look upon our whole life as a preparation for that moment of death. So we shouldn't wait till the moment of death expecting that we can hold on to him then. We need to hold on to him now. If we hold on to him now, we will certainly hold on to him at the time of death.
Small addition to this, just as Yashoda was aware of Lord Krishna being divinity himself,
Yes.
so Sargama also aware that he was face to face with Bhagavan, her son, who was Arunachala himself.
We don't know. I think Yasoda, only momentarily she came to recognize that. When he opened his mouth and she saw the whole universe in his mouth, she recognized it, but very quickly she forgot it. Because how can she be a mother to him if she understands that he's the supreme lord of the whole world? So she was kept under a veil of Maya, taking him just. Of course, she had great love for him as her child, but she didn't. Except for rare moments, she didn't recognize what he actually was. So, like that, I think Bhagavan's mother would not have. She obviously had great love for him as her son, but she would not have known. Most of her life she would have been kept under a veil of ignorance. But that veil of ignorance was finally removed by the grace of Bhagavan at the time that she left her body. I mean, I think later in the later part of her life, she would have understood, but Bhagavan, she would have understood the greatness of Bhagavan, but she wouldn't have known it fully. Just like even now, do we know fully the greatness of Bhagavan? We say Bhagavan is great, we believe Bhagavan is great, but we don't know his greatness. His greatness is infinite. How can our finite mind know his infinite greatness? We can know his greatness, we can know him as he actually is only by being as he actually is. And for that, we need to hold on to him in our heart.
Thank you. Thank you so much yet again, Michael James, and thank you so much for being here with us on this very, very special day. Thank you.
All thanks to Bhagavan.
So also, from non-participants also.
Yes.
Thank you once again.
Okay. Namo Ramanaya.